Glorious PC Gaming Race has now completed their lineup of mice with a wired and wireless version of their 4 different designs. What we're taking a look at today is the Model O- wireless, which is the smallest and lightest in the lineup, but they've also opened up pre-orders for the Model D- wireless, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. And so let's dive in and take a closer look at the glorious Model O- wireless. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Toys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and enable notifications with the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Hey everyone, Jordan here with 9 to 5 Toys, and today we do have the Model O- wireless. And Glorious sent over 2 copies. We've got one in white and one in black, which are the same color options they have across their entire lineup. And real quickly, included in the box are an extended USB-C to USB-A cable, the adapter and wireless receiver, and some assorted literature along with a sticker. Taking a quick look at the overall design, on the left side of the mouse you do have those 2 side buttons along with the little Glorious logo there. And over on the right, you do have a small Glorious script logo. Up top, you have mouse 1, mouse 2, the clickable scroll wheel, and the DPI switch button with a honeycomb shell over the back. And flipping over to the bottom, we do have the BAMF sensor, a DPI indicator LED light that will change when you change DPI settings, and the power switch. And Glorious is using 4 PTFE feet on the bottom of the mouse in the 4 corners. If you've been following Glorious or have seen my Model O wireless review, the overall design of the Model O- wireless will look very similar. It's a right-handed, ambi-shaped mouse that's scaled down from the bigger brother. Weighing in at 65 grams, this is the lightest and smallest gaming mouse in Glorious's lineup. The Model O- wireless measures 120 millimeters long with a grip width of 58 millimeters that expands to 63 millimeters at the widest part near the back of the mouse. Height-wise, the hump is pretty squarely positioned in the middle of the mouse at 35 millimeters. Compared to the bigger Model O, the Model O- shaves 8 millimeters off the overall length, 1 millimeter off the width, and 3 millimeters off the height. The Model O wireless was a really comfortable mouse for me. I even made a video about how it changed me from an ergo user to an ambi user thanks to that shape and lightweight. And that's the thing with mice. I mean, it's going to be a very personal preference to you, of your hand size and also what kind of grip style you use for which mouse is going to fit you best. For me, I really love the lightweight feel of the Model O- wireless, but I do think that it is just a little bit too small for my hand and grip style. I typically game with a relaxed claw where I do like my palm to be able to make contact against the back of the mouse, but I don't have my fingers aggressively pointed down on the front of the mouse. With the Model O- wireless to have this grip, my palm often isn't in contact with the back of the mouse and it ends up riding on my mouse pad quite a bit. So it's just causing some extra friction and, isn't the most comfortable. The mouse is still easy to move because it's so lightweight, but that isn't the easiest position for me. And so going up to the bigger Model O wireless, it adds enough room in the back with those 8 millimeters that I'm able to leave my palm on the back of the mouse a little bit more, and that's just more of a comfortable grip for me. But that's all going to be personal preference. I mean, Glorious says that the Model O- wireless is intended for small to medium hands, so you got to be your own judge of your hand size and figure out, what size of mouse is going to be best for you. Build-wise, the Model O- wireless really feels solid. There aren't any squeaks or creaks when pressing hard on the body or even shaking the mouse. The honeycomb shell over the back feels plenty solid as well. Mouse 1 and mouse 2 don't wiggle much, and all of these side buttons, the clickable scroll wheel, and the DPI switch all feel great as well. Spec-wise, Glorious is keeping things pretty uniform across their entire lineup. They're really just offering different shapes and sizes and wired or wireless variants of each mouse. For the sensor, the Model O- wireless is using the same BAMF sensor that's made in collaboration with PixArt. It can reach up to 19,000 DPI, 400 IPS, and a 1000 Hz polling rate. For me, it tracked perfectly, and I really haven't had any issues with the sensor on any of the Glorious mice that I've tested. One noticeable difference between the new Model O- wireless and the Model O wireless, the bigger one that I've used for quite a while, is the switches. The bigger Model O wireless is using Omron switches rated at 20 million clicks, while the newer Model O- wireless is using Glorious switches, which are Kale switches that are rated to 80 million clicks, and the difference is one that you can hear and feel. And here we'll do a sound test between the 2 different mice. The new switches are much crisper both in feedback and sound. Granted, I've spent a lot of time using the older Model O wireless with the Omron switches, but the new Glorious Kale switches feel and sound much better to me. Another thing to note here on my older Model O wireless, the scroll wheel has developed an intermittent squeak, but the scroll wheel on the Model O- wireless feels much more solid. Time will tell if it develops the same noise, but my initial impression is that it feels better. Within the Glorious Core software, you can set different profiles that adjust lighting, key bindings, and performance. For lighting, Glorious has some of the best RGB on a gaming mouse in my opinion. The two strips on either side of the mouse are easily visible when you're holding the mouse, and they shine through the honeycomb shell as well. They have a few different zones which allow a rainbow effect with Glorious mode and all of the other RGB modes that you would expect, like static and breathing. In the performance tab, you can set your DPI levels as well as the color that is associated with each setting. The color is visible in a small light on the bottom of the mouse next to the sensor for a quick reference. You can also adjust the lift-off distance and debounce time from within Glorious Core. As a wireless gaming mouse, the Model O- wireless was performing, flawlessly for me. And really, wireless mice from any of the name brands are going to be performing really well these days. Lag and input latency with a wireless mouse really isn't a concern. Battery life is rated to the same 71 hours as a lot of Glorious's other mice, but just like the other mice, that will depend greatly on the RGB lighting. If you want to get the most out of your charge, be sure to tweak the brightness in the Glorious Core app. So overall, wrapping up here, while the Glorious Model O- wireless might be a little small for me, I really like the improvements they've made over the bigger brother in the way of crisper switches and a better feeling scroll wheel. And it's pretty neat that Glorious has completed their entire, mouse lineup. They have both the Model D and the Model O. They have two different size variations of each one, and they have wired and wireless variants of each one. So you can really dig in there and choose what's best for you based on, your hand size and your grip style, but then also your budget as well. And speaking of budget, the Model O- wireless is going to come in at $80, just like the bigger O wireless and just like the D wireless. So they're really keeping things pretty uniform across their pricing across all the different mice as well. And at $80 for a lightweight, small gaming mouse, this is going to be a great pick. One of the biggest names in the wireless game right now is that Logitech G Pro Superlight, which comes in at almost twice the cost of the Model O- wireless or any of Glorious's wireless mice. So definitely something to consider if you're on a tighter budget. Alright, and that'll do it for our review of the Glorious Model O- wireless. Let us know what you think about these mice down in the comments below. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.